Hey you, wanna hear a secret? I like fighting games. I know, that's a really dark secret, but I trust you enough to tell you. But the thing is, liking fighting games has almost become the norm here in recent years.
Just one thing I want to say. Fighting game is something so great.
They've been encompassing well-known IPs, and the barrier for entry seems to be getting lower and lower with each new game that comes out. Take a look at games like Street Fighter 6, DNF Duel, Power Rangers Battle for the Grid, and even the League of Legends fighting game 2XKO. God, that's gonna take some getting used to. All of them have adapted ways to make the barrier for entry super low while still keeping the things that classic fighters have as a bonus for putting them in the effort. Now, why am I talking about fighting games when I don't have a single fighting game video on my channel? Well, if you're familiar with my content, you know I'm a big fan of comics, particularly Marvel comics. And believe it or not, I'm quite the gamer.
Maybe I can do this right.
Oh yeah, that's some good stuff right there.
Great start.
You don't see gameplay like this anymore.
Lovely start. Beautiful start.
And just recently, a certain collection came out that I've long been waiting to get my hands on. The Marvel vs. Capcom Arcade Classics Fighting Collection. I was introduced to MVC, I'm abbreviating it so I can save saying the whole thing because it's a mouthful, by randomly renting UMVC 3 through Gamefly one day because I saw it had Marvel characters on it, and my team mind just decided to rent it. As soon as I got it, I popped it into my 360 and started playing. I picked my team of Deadpool, Trish, and Dante, and played through the arcade mode. I got through it rather well and got a big confidence boost and tried my hand online. First match in, and I got Touch of Death. So I returned the game the next day. But that enjoyment I had of messing around in the game before meeting a person was something I could never shake. So I tried out other fighting games throughout the years, and even began watching Maximilian Dude to get a better understanding of how these games work. And I've come to realize I am trash. But I love playing them so much. And I'm no button masher, mind you. I can get a few combos in from time to time, but MVC just kinda escaped me. So I bought UMVC 3 4 months before it came to PC and played it with my partner. And I wasn't getting it at all, but I was playing with someone of equal familiarity with the game and ended up having a lot of fun. So I bought MVCI fully knowing what I was getting into and still had a great time with it. But I just kept getting that itch for the classics since, there wasn't a way I could obtain them legally. And lo and behold, the collection was announced. So I figured that since the collection is out, and Max is making an absolutely huge mod for MVCI that I will be playing, and you should too if you like these types of games, and the custom music, it's so good! I decided to make my own MVC4 list. Took us about 3 minutes to get to this point of the video, but hey, we're here, and I'll try not to linger on the choices for too long. So I'll try to give a brief explanation and even throw my choice in for a skin for said character, as well as give an even briefer explanation on them. So sit back, grab some snacks, and let's go for a ride.
Select your heroes.
So we will start off on the Marvel side, and of course we gotta start with the mainstays, which shouldn't take too long to get through.
Black Panther!
Black Panther is the first one on my list since he's become such a huge character now, and also his playstyle in MVCI is very unique and fitting for his character, and would just feel weird without him. For a skin, I went with his current modern look in the comics since it looks super dope.
Captain America!
Next is Captain America, who needs no introduction because we all know Cap and he's been in every MVC game since they launched. For my skin of choice, I chose the sleek Secret Agent look, though second place was his first MCU suit with the pilot straps, which does look great, but MVCI had an MCU-esque look, so I thought I'd go back to the comics.
I did it!
Third up is the leader of the X-Men, Cyclops. He and his fellow teammates were sorely missed in MVCI, and the game felt weird without him, so be expecting more mutants on this list. But yeah, Scott is a mainstay, and probably the most iconic piece of media around MVC is literally him shaking hands with Ryu. Like, how could you not have him? For a skin, I chose the Phoenix suit, which looks really cool overall.
Spider-Man.
Oh no, here comes the webbed menace Spider-Man! Yeah, it wouldn't be an MVC game without him, since he's also a legacy character like Cap, while also having the second most famous piece of media around the franchise. Brother ain't beating those cheating allegations. For a skin, I went with the Iron Spider suit from the comics, more specifically the Civil War version in the comics. It's just a really awesome suit, and it's just super cool with all the arms and all the attachments and everything. I did consider Spider-Punk as well, but I just think the Iron Spider has more of a unique gameplay look with the arms and everything, so that's why I went with it.
Ultron.
Now, another NVCI alumni joining the returning characters is Ultron. He's a super fun character that plays really well and is used very often in high-tier competitive play. Plus, if I put him in, I can get his MVCI Beyond theme to play, and that would be fucking rad!
Reality show. The power to control everything.
This is Ultron's new theme by Alex Mukala. He's a bad guy. We needed a bad guy track. It fits him. I know. I know. Alex Mukala, the YouTuber? Yes. He's one of our lead music developers.
And for a skin, I went with this Infinity look from What If, since it's such a unique look for the character, but still it feels like a true evolution of him.
Wolverine!
Okay, so this might be a controversial pick, but I figured we keep the mantle but bring on the next generation. So, I have Wolverine, but it's X-23. I know she and Logan play very differently in MVC3, but she was relatively new and she was a blank slate, so they can come up with basically anything they wanted for the character. Like, remember Dirt Nap? I don't remember seeing anything for that material for the game. But a lot of time has passed since she's come out, and she's mainly come into her own and taking in some Loganisms and while making them wholly unique to her. So if you want something like Logan, you can have it remixed in an X-23-like way, while also having X-23 moves that have been altered from the passage of time. For her skin, I chose the NYX suit, or the Nyx suit, because I think it's an awesome development for her character to remix her mantle into something original. Also, it just looks super cool, so yeah.
Hulk.
Back to normality, we have the Hulk, who also needs no introduction and has maintained himself as a staple for many games since its launch. For his skin, I went with the merged Hulk look, and no, not the MCU one, the original from the comics. Solely because you don't really see that look for him anymore, and it's just full of personality. I mean, like, look at his bunny slippers, like, come on, that would be funny to see in-game.
Iron Man.
The final mainstay, who goes by the nickname of the Iron Avenger, the Man of Iron, and Mr. Learn a motherfucking Infinite, we have Iron Man himself. No need to get in depth or anything, he has been here since the beginning as well, and the game wouldn't be the same without him. For his skin, I chose the Mysterium suit, solely because it has a very unique look, and I don't want to throw War Machine or Iron Patriot on here because they're both kind of overdone as separate character suit type things. Though I do love them both dearly.
My name is Penny Parker.
Now we have our first new addition, and I went with Penny Parker and the Spider, because I felt she has the name and notoriety while also having really cool gameplay mechanics. If you've seen Marvel Rivals gameplay of her, and you can imagine her as like a combination of Rocket and Spencer, with the minds and gadgets of Rockets with the grappling and movement of Spencer. Ooh, that was a burp. Also, just saying right now, neither of them are on the list. Actually, I don't think I have any Guardians on the list. Oh well. For her skin, I went with the Venom look because it's close enough to the base while also having some notable differences to make it stand out.
Hey, I'm Scott. I mean, Ant-Man.
Now, a technical new addition is Ant-Man. I know he's featured in MVC3 as a super for Hawkeye, and he was planned as DLC for Infinite, but sadly, it never came to pass. But now I'm giving him the full character treatment that he rightfully deserves. He could have a size changing mechanic or something that incorporates his gadgets that allows him to change his opponent's size or summon ants or anything like that. For a skin, I went with the irredeemable Ant-Man because it's kind of the black sheep of the character's history and needs more love. Plus, the comic is just really good.
I am the apocalypse!
Another technical new addition is Apocalypse. He featured as a boss in X-Men vs. Street Fighter and Marvel Superheroes vs. Street Fighter, and hasn't really had a true playable form for players to mess around with, at least as far as I'm aware. But allowing him to change size, create constructs, and possibly apply debuffs would make him feel like a boss character, with hopefully it being manageable. For a skin, I went with this Age of Apocalypse armor because I think it would change him up just enough while still being recognizable to the character. Also, I couldn't really find anything else that wasn't really appealing. Here comes a new challenger, and it's Beetle. I know we already have a guy in a robot suit that can fly on the list, but I believe Beetle can be different with having Iron Man-like attributes while still being a gadget-focused character as well, having some of the nice pow-pow to go along with him. For his skin, I went with his current Beetle, or at least I think the most recent one, Janice Lincoln, which, yes, I know is a woman, and it can mess up the whole hitbox and everything, but I mean, taking some artistic liberties, you could beef her up a bit, either herself or her armor, to get it look similar in size to the hitbox while still being visually distinct.
They call me Daywalker.
Next is a character that has been long overdue for an appearance in a Marvel vs. Capcom game, the one and only Blade. I would think himself as a hybrid of Deadpool and Dante, with a bit of Mira from Killer Instinct or Dimitri from Darkstalkers thrown in to add that vampireness of the kit. For his skin, I went with his anime interpretation because it looks really cool and it's just kick-ass and unique for the character.
I am Carnage!
Now, I know you all are asking for a symbiote, and don't worry, I got you covered. So here comes the man, the myth, the legend, Carnage! Yeah, I know Venom is almost a staple for these things, but I personally think he's a bit oversaturated, and Carnage needs some time in the spotlight, especially for a fighting game. He would play similarly to Venom, but he'd be way more aggressive, faster, and more agile, while also possibly being able to stance switch between different weapon transformations. Or just use them as special moves, but still switching weapons made from his body should be vital. For his skin, I decided on Poison Carnage simply because I know people would want Absolute Carnage, but that is really popular right now, and I feel Poison Carnage is a cooler look, so call me a contrarian, but that's my stance.
Now you face doom.
No sweat.
Now we have a few returning favorites here with Psylocke and Dr. Doom. Psylocke was a staple until MVC3, where she had been excluded, and Doom was a staple up until MVCI, so I feel like they both should play the same as their original incarnations with some modern touch-ups, especially for Psylocke. For the skins, I chose Saki from Demon Days for Psylocke because the look of the character is super badass and Peach needs some representation. And for Doom, I went with this Hellfire Gala look because it just screams class, and getting your ass kicked by someone in this outfit would definitely leave you impressed.
What a pleasant surprise.
Alright, I got another controversial one here, and I went with Daredevil, but not Matt Murdock. I went with Elektra Daredevil because I think it's a way cooler look, and again, the two had histories, you could incorporate some of Matt's hypothetical moves onto her. She worked for the Hand and did some stuff with Matt, so I don't think it's too far-fetched. For the skin, I went with Ikari, who is another Daredevil rival, and again, if the body structure is a problem, you could very easily slim him down to fit the model. Plus, he isn't very large anyways, so him being more slim and ninja-like wouldn't really hurt.
Ghost Rider!
Now, I gotta get one of my favorites in, and no one better fits the bill than Ghost Rider. But, I'm making it with a twist. I decided to go with Robbie Reyes instead of Johnny. Don't get me wrong, I love Johnny, he's my boy for life. But Robbie is not only a newer pick, but he's also a really unique visual identity to him with his skull helmet and driving a freaking flaming charger. I think he has enough to stand out from the previous incarnations. Like, imagine for his level 3, he does a mix between Scorpion and Batman Super from Injustice 1, where he wraps you in chains and throws you around, and then when he does his final slam, his Hell Charger runs through and rams the combatant. That sounds rad as hell to me. For his skin, I went with Ghost Rider 2099, since he's probably one of the few Ghost Riders I don't see represented that much, and again, he looks freaking cool, especially with the Vaporwave aesthetic for the fire. It would be freaking amazing.
Hello, Gwenpool.
Okay, so don't hate me for this take, but I'm getting tired of Deadpool. Now, before you start throwing your tomatoes and hit the dislike button, hear me out. He's in practically everything these days, becoming a household name, and with his third movie being the highest grossing rated R film of all time, the third time this has happened in the franchise, I kinda want to break from the Merc with the mouth. Don't get me wrong, I love him, and he played a big role in me getting back into comics and even into fighting games, but he's just kinda oversaturated, and I lost my spark I had for him. Though, someone I recently have been loving who carries the Pool moniker is Gwenpool, and I feel like she would be an excellent addition, adding even more fourth wall breaks and even do things that addresses the reader directly in a way DP never could. She could be a super jokey character, but just a blast to use, and still be viable. For her skin, I went with her casual look, since she doesn't really have very many noteworthy alternates that aren't just color switches.
Now you see me, now you don't.
So for the Fantastic Four rep, I decided to go with the Invisible Woman, since she is a core member of the team and has the most interesting and diverse powers out of the four, making barriers, shields, and having complete stealth would make it a really cool way to get around with mental mind games. For her skin, I went with the scrapped Alex Ross design, since it's visually appealing and also a nice deep cut for those that and I think would please the fans.
You don't know me. A shame, but you will.
Now, Magic is very quickly becoming a very popular character. Like, really popular. And I'm all for it. Having a character with a huge sword with a demon install... Okay, I'm gonna have to do that again. Having a character with a huge sword and a demon install that isn't a DMC character would be awesome for these types of team-ups. For her skin, I went with the classic look that had the yellow skirt just to give a callback to her roots.
Face the vengeance of the Moon Knight.
Now, my second favorite Marvel character also needs a spot on the list, so I'm putting my favorite schizophrenic Moon Knight on here. I know he's not schizophrenic, this is just a joke, I swear. I would assume he would play like Batman with his gadgets and such, with a bit of Nightwing mixed in as well with his Eskrima sticks. At least I believe that's how you pronounce it. With possibly some more random bullshit with some assistance from Khonshu in the form of past Moon Knights assisting the fight and such. For his skin, I went with this recent design from Vengeance of Moon Knight, and I know that's not the man himself, but the design is super cool and I think would give him a unique look that would change up the look of his weapons as well.
No one is safe.
Onslaught hasn't made an appearance since the first Marvel vs. Capcom, and he himself hasn't gotten a lot of love from Marvel as well since his first appearance. And I know he'd be kind of funky to play, but I think if they streamlined the gameplay from his older incarnations, but still made him large and an imposing menace, it would be awesome to just have a big boy like him on the roster. And yes, I know 2 X-Men villains, but I also have a Spidey villain and 2 Avengers villains on here if we count Doom, since he's often affiliated with them aside from the 4, so I'm gonna count him. For his skin, I went with his Phoenix look since it's kind of hard to find some alternate looks for him, but it's also a great look with the fire on it.
I will answer the call, if it is just.
Since his movie appearance, he has been getting more and more popular in the Marvel and Kung Fu scene, and my replacement for Iron Fist, so I'm gonna go with Shang-Chi on this one. He has a unique form of martial art, he can do everything Iron Fist can do, and more. And if we use the movie as inspiration, he can use the 10 rings as weapons to battle with, since those were used in a cool way for combat. For his skin, I went with his rebooted look since it's got a nice visual identity while keeping it to the old Kung Fu Master theme.
This one's going in my war journal.
The Punisher should have been someone who was in these games already, like honestly. Especially given Capcom's history with Marvel, and him being the focus of their first collaboration, it's absolutely criminal he hasn't been featured yet. He would probably play closer to Cable, but with some more modern weapons and explosives thrown in. Probably something akin to Rambo from MK11, but way more fast-paced and more gun-focused. For his skin, I went with his Punisher Noir look, since it's a unique look for him and would add an interesting look to his normally military-focused character. Alright, we need some goobers up in here, so I'm gonna throw Jeff the Landshark in the mix. He is a super popular character, especially with his recent addition to Marvel Rivals, and his playstyle is super unique to that game, so I wouldn't be surprised if Capcom came up with something even crazier that used Rivals as a jumping off point. For his skin, the only thing I could really find was a Venomized version of him, so that would be my pick for his skin, unless you want to like reinterpret his older interpretations, which would also work as well.
It is my turn now.
It's showtime.
Alright, we got the Queen and the Wild Card. Storm and Gambit should totally make a comeback after being excluding from MVCI. Have Storm play the same as she did in MVC3, and Gambit as he did in MVC2, but again with some extra love and attention to bring them up to modern standards. For Storm, the skin I would pick would be her new ultimate look, and for Gambit, I'm gonna be honest, I tried finding something that looked visually unique and came across a Gambit fan site that has a supposed list of all his costumes, so I picked from them. So if it's not the real thing or a fan thing, I apologize. So I went with this Gen X look from this one picture I found, so take it or leave it, I guess.
Beta Ray Bill, champion of champions, knows what to do.
So we need someone with a hammer. A big guy with a hammer. One that can launch lightning from it, and also kind of grapple a bit. But who would fit the bill? Wait a minute. Bill! Beta Ray Bill! He is my next pick as the store substitute, since he's not only more interesting of a character, but he's changed up using more weapons than just Mjolnir, and could add a unique element to his gameplay. For his skin, I went with his classic first appearance look, since it would be a nice callback and add a nice visual shakeup for the rest of the cast.
Chaos surrounds us, but I will gladly show it who is in control.
And finally, for the Marvel side, we need a magic user. So my pick will be the Scarlet Witch. I know Doctor Strange has kind of been a mainstay, but I feel like we need to shake it up a bit and give Wanda some love as well for a fighting game. She does a lot of things similar to Steven and a lot more, making her a real wildcard while in game, causing chaos and changing possibilities like changing damages percentages, or even whether a move connected or not. I know it's broken, but I'm sure Capcom would find a way to balance it like with supers or something. But for her skin, I went with her rival Lore, who I believe is a clone or alternate universe of her, but like completely unhinged and consumed by darkness. She looks visually distinct and would make for a great skin. This is the end of the Marvel side, and now we're switching over to Capcom. Okay, I'm gonna be real. I'm not as connected with Capcom as I am with Marvel. Not saying that this is a knock on the company or their IPs, I just wasn't very big into video games growing up until about the last 10 years, which left a lot of catching up to do, so I apologize if some of these picks are vanilla or bland, but I'm familiar with these characters and connect with them, so they make the list. Now that that's out of the way, let's just jump right in.
Chun-Li!
Starting off is a legacy character who has been here since the beginning, and our first Street Fighter rep, Chun-Li. I would have her play similar to her MVC3 version since it's very recognizable and easy to pick up, and for her skin, I went with her alpha look since it's probably her second most recognizable look outside of her original, and it's a personal favorite.
Dante!
Next up we have the partying, pizza-loving demon slayer Dante. At this point, he's also become a mainstay in the franchise due to the popularity of both competitive and just this franchise getting a huge revival here recently. Dante will play identical to what he did in MVCI since it was just perfect, and for his skin, I went with his DMC2 look since it's such a kick-ass look that doesn't get a lot of time in the sun because of the game's poor reception.
Hagar!
Here comes the mayor of all mayors, we have Mike Hagar. He's a mainstay as well, and I don't really see what you can change for him. So for his skin, I went with his proper mayor attire to really hone in on that political authority on the battlefield.
Zero!
So this is technically for a legacy character while also being new, but I'm going with Zero, but specifically the Mega Man Zero version of Zero. Boy, that's a mouthful. Which will give him an all-new look and tools to play with. For his skin, we can give him the classic Zero look to appease people who missed the OG, but with the new tools of the new Zero.
Beautiful Joe!
Probably my favorite goofball on the Capcom side, I gotta add Beautiful Joe. He's such a goober, and I love how he looks, and he just oozes style that I can't imagine MVC without him. For his skin, I went with his casual look, which I know is the same in MVC3, but it looks great, and if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Strider, hear you!
I feel like Max would hunt me down if I didn't add Strider, so out of fear for my life, I'ma add him. On a serious note, he's been around since the OG, and it would be incomplete without him, and I prefer that he plays like his MVZI version. So we'll keep that playstyle, and for the skin, I went with his Strider High-End, which again, I know was in the previous game, but again, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Alex, this will be perfect for a warm-up.
Now, I'm not huge into Street Fighter, but when I get a chance to play Third Strike, Alex became an instant favorite for the franchise. So he's in my roster. Using a Neek's combo grapple fighting style will also make him true to his Third Strike origins. That would be perfect. For his skin, I went with his concept art look, which he was originally planned to be a police officer.
I will have my vengeance!
It is a crime that Asura from Asura's Wrath hasn't made it into one of these games yet. So I propose we add him, and he plays similar to how he does in the modded version of MVC3. The game is so goofy and over the top in the best way possible, he just needs to be here. His skin as well could be his rival Yasha to get everyone we can from the franchise in the game.
Not bad.
Next, for the Dead Rising rep, I decided to move away from Frank and give the other best character of the franchise a shot and went with Chuck Green. I don't remember how much of his game really was good, but I remember liking it a lot, and I got the approval from the biggest Dead Rising fan I know, Soggy Tuna, so I'ma stick him in. For his skin, I went with his, spoiler alert, Dead Rising 3 look to give him a really older, more rugged feel. Another crime against the franchise was not adding Edward Falcon from Power Stone. His entire playstyle could be a throwback to Marvel superheroes, where you pick up gems, but getting the gems from him could be giving him different buffs and powers, which leads to his super form. For his skin, I went with his concept look, since, I'm gonna be real, I couldn't find any alternate looks for him.
Felicia!
So, I have a question. Am I the only one who's tired of Morgan? She is cool and stuff, but we need more Darkstalkers reps to get the spotlight. So I'm gonna go with Felicia as her replacement, since I just find her way more interesting of a character. And for her skin, I went with her Onimusha skin from, I believe, the mobile game? But it changes up the silhouette just enough to qualify as a skin in my eyes, so I'ma use it.
Toroize.
Whoa, another Darkstalkers rep? Yep, I'm putting John Talbane on the list, since I think he would be really cool and have great synergy with characters like Shang-Chi and Chun-Li. Plus, he's just awesome, and he never really had a 3D debut. So for his skin, I went with some concept art, in particular this one right here, which really digs deep into that barbarian look, and I just love it. So this is a deep pull that came to my attention from Max, and having played the game recently, I gotta agree, Lin Kurosawa from the AVP beat 'em up needs a spot on the roster. She has a huge mix-up of martial arts and gadgets that I think she'd bring a unique playstyle to the roster. So I have a predicament for this. For Lin and a few others on the roster, they haven't had real alternate skins or concept art to pull from, at least that I could find. So I'm kind of cheating a bit and using some fan redesigns that I think would make for great skins. So for the skin, I went with this awesome design by Radit Julie, which would make an awesome, new look. She and every other fan artist will be linked in the description as well.
Monster Hunter!
Next was a really cool addition to MVCI. We gotta bring in Monhun as a multi-tool character. She had a really unique playstyle and was just a great addition that I can't see the game without her. So for skins, I had one of two ideas of either just having the opposite gender as the skin, or go with the bone armor, which has been a staple for the franchise. Both ideas are viable, but I think the bone armor resonates with me more, so I'm gonna go with that one.
Mega Man!
Wouldn't be Marvel vs. Capcom without Mega Man, and so for my pick, I went with Megaman.exe, since he's my favorite and the one I'm most familiar with. He could play completely different from X and OG Mega Man by introducing the chip mechanic to just completely modify moves. For his skin, I thought I would get another Mega Man rep in there, so I present Star Force Mega Man as his ult, since the games play very similarly, and it could just work with just some VFX tweaks.
Fighting is the only thing I remember.
Now, the franchise that made me really familiar with Capcom as a company was the Lost Planet franchise, with 2 being my favorite, and just loving how it played, told its story, and just a blast to play with friends. So my self-indulgent pick is Wayne Holden, and as an extension, the Vital Suit as a temp install are just a really cool flashy super. But Wayne could also use a variety of weapons and a grapple to move around the battlefield while being deadly from multiple ranges and angles. For his skin, I decided on the X-Nevik suit, since it's a cool look and just a really interesting faction in the whole world and franchise.
You're extinct!
Another deep pull I'm getting here is Regina from Dino Crisis, which is a franchise that desperately needs some representation. Regina could play akin to how old Jill did from MVC2, but with the dinosaurs instead of the zombies being there, and just add some extra quirks to diversify her from the roster. For her skin, I went with another piece of fan art, with this piece being made by Mokapot. The final Mega Man rep I have here is another antagonist/rival to the main protagonist, and my favorite incarnation of the character, Base.exe. I love his looks, his entire moveset, his personality, and I just want to put him in. For his ult, I went with this Metarot, or Metabots here in the West, crossover skin. I know this might be some legal problems with the skin, but this is a hypothetical, and if I want a machine to look more like my favorite anime growing up, then gosh darn it, so be it.
So we finally meet.
So I feel that we've had a lot of giant Resident Evil monsters in the MVC franchise, and they always get rotated out for whatever the most recent big bad is. So leaning into that, I think Lady D from Resident Evil Village would be a perfect candidate to replace Nemesis. She could work like a mixture of a tank with some lust thrown in from FMA. Slow, hard-hitting, and could have an extendable normals that would make her a real threat. For her skin, I went with this design from you can see in her castle in her Victorian outfit, and I think that would be a very classy ult.
Let me hear your sweet scream.
I think for the next Street Fighter rep, I want someone who is fairly recent but still really popular. So my pick is Juri, who made her debut in Street Fighter 4, but has only been growing in popularity since then. With her inclusion in both Street Fighter 5 and 6, and I honestly don't see any other way this game could come into fruition without her. Just going to clarify as well, for the Street Fighter reps, their appearance would be them at their oldest. So for Juri and Chun-Li and any others that would be added during this time, they would go with their Street Fighter 6 looks, while Alex would have his original Third Strike look, since I believe that's him at his oldest. But yeah, Juri would look and play like she does in Street Fighter 6, with some things tweaked to fit the game. For her skin, I went with her mech ult because it looks cool and that's it. No horny.
Time for a little fun.
Next, I have an awesome character from an underappreciated franchise. I got Gene from Godfist. His entire game is just a homage to fighting games, but with a really cool twist, and he's perfect for the game since he's literally made with these types of games in mind. For his ult, I went with Azel, who is his rival character, to give more representation to the franchise.
Are you shitting me?
For my second RE rep, I thought we could bring Jill back, since she sadly was her RE5 version and didn't play very similar to her MVC2 version. But now that Regina kind of took that spot of the summoning character, I think she could probably be a mixture between her MVC2 and 3 version. I know it wouldn't be canon, but I think it would be really cool gameplay wise, and Capcom could totally make her unique from the others. For her ult, I went with her crow costume from RE5, since it's a unique look but also a cool callback for fans.
I'm gonna take this hand and shove it up your ass!
With his rise in popularity over the years and being one of the 3 pro tags in the most recent entry, we have Nero. I think having him play how he does throughout the majority of DMC5 with finding arms and using them to switch up combat would be a really neat mechanic, while also giving him his devil trigger to amplify not just his normals, but his arms as well. Also, having a rev mechanic for his sword, just like in the game, would give a big risk-reward factor for his gameplay, since you can risk taking damage revving, but if you get your revs off, you get big damage on now amplified specials. Nero's ult had to be his concept look from DMC4, with his concept devil trigger as well. Because I mean, come on, it looks so sick!
Seems I have to finish him off myself.
And finally, to round out the DMC crew, we gotta add Lucia into the mix. Yeah, I know Virgil, yada yada, I get it. And though Virgil is fun and interesting character, he always releases in every game he's in absolutely busted. And I don't want to repeat of UMVC3. So I thought, why not give another character from the franchise who ticks similar boxes to fill the role? Especially since Lucia hasn't had an appearance since the game she debuted in and needs some love. For her ult, I thought it'd be really cute to give her the Diesel costume from the OG game, which, yes, I know, another legal nightmare, but it'd be really funny and a nice callback to this bizarre crossover.
Where's everyone going? Bingo?
Now, another final entry to the franchise, I got myself the man, the myth, the legend, Leon S. Kennedy from Resident Evil 4. He has gotten increasingly popular recently, and it's completely baffling why he hasn't been in any of these games yet. He would play similarly to Chris Redfield, but with more small arms and way more agile. And of course, for his ult, I gotta put in the Mafia costume. If you're unfamiliar, you get the costume for beating the game the first time, and it is so iconic to the character I just can't see him without it.
No need for the trappings of flesh.
Coming in hot!
These next two are also finals for their reps. Both come from beloved fighting games from Capcom. We got Jeddah from Darkstalkers and Ken Masters from Street Fighter. Jeddah is kinda a no-brainer since he was kinda super popular in MVCI and played in a super unique and interesting fashion. And Ken would replace Ryu in this situation since they both fundamentally do the same stuff, with some minor differences between them. But I personally think Ken is the better of the two, and hence is why I'm having him take Ryu's spot for Shoto. Ken's skin, I think his original look would be the best fit as a callback, and give it a new updated look for the game. Jeddah, on the other hand, is getting something wholly different. I'm giving Jeddah his Onimusha ult, which is just him gender swapped. But I think he can change his form since he's just made out of blood, so it makes sense. His hitboxes again would be a problem, but taking some liberties and adjustments can make it work just like suggested with the others.
I am the princess, and you are the prey.
Now I got two characters, with one that needs love outside of his franchise, and one that hasn't gotten a game since MVC2. I got Hayato from Star Gladiator, and Solo, Strider Hiryu's antagonist from Strider. Hayato is an easy pick, since he had such a fun playstyle in MVC2, and needs more love outside of MVC2 and his base game. Solo was chosen because just about everyone has their villains on the roster, and since Strider has been here for so long, I figured giving him his rival was the right call. Plus, Solo has a cool suit that allows him to play like a more aggressive and laser-focused Iron Man, or even better, think Iron Man with some Toho and severe mental problems thrown in. For their skins, I went with Solo's concept art, and for Hayato, I went with the Blood ult to also get some more representation in the game of his rival.
Objection!
And finally, to round out the roster, I wanted to give Ace Attorney a chance to come back and shine in the franchise, so I'm giving Miles Edgeworth the final spot on the Capcom side. I know, why not Phoenix? Well, Miles never really got a chance to shine in a lot of the games, and being Phoenix's rival, he would play very similar with some key differences. Being more aggressive, using different items to pick up, use and find ways to make convictions, and having completely different supers using his past clients or something of the sort. For his ult, I went with his rookie ult to give him a more regal but still trying to prove himself type look. And there we have it, the entire roster for my hypothetical MVC4. I hope you guys enjoy the video, and I know it was probably way too long, but if you stuck around till the end, and it is greatly appreciated. I did come up with a hypothetical DLC roster as well, but I figured this video went on long enough, so I'll probably save that for another day, or if you guys would be interested to see it. If you would like, subscribe and tell me in the comments that you'd be interested, and I promise it would be a much shorter video than this one. But it'll have just as many twists. So thank you again for watching, I love you all, and have a great day, evening, or night. Kisses. Mwah.